Welcome back to link 3. In this link, we're looking at what I'm calling filtered awareness. Traditionally, this link is called consciousness, but for this course, I want to call it filtered awareness because we're not talking about pure open awareness or ground of being or any of the other ways that that word has been used. In this link, we're talking about awareness that is already shaped. It's operating through the world building of link 2. In link 2, the mind built a world. It created a map of expectations, patterns, assumptions, and predictions. Now in link 3, awareness begins to operate through that world. So it's not awareness from some completely neutral place. It's already conditioned by what the mind expects to encounter. Let's think about this through our video game metaphor. If the world building is the game world being generated, the map, the regions, the rules, the dangers, the rewards, then awareness is the game engine rendering experience through that world. Now the world is appearing, but it's appearing through conditions that have already been set. This is important because this filtered awareness comes online before we clearly notice thoughts, before we notice sensations, and before we consciously say, oh, I'm interpreting this situation in a certain way. The filter is already operating. It's already looking for what confirms or denies what it expects. And as with all the links, this isn't bad. We need filtered awareness. We need the mind to be able to stabilize experience. We actually need continuity for survival because the ability to recognize patterns and orient ourselves and move through the world is important. Without filtering, experience would be chaotic. We'd be overwhelmed by everything all the time. So it's not a problem that awareness is filtered. The problem is that we don't know it. We simply think that we are aware of reality as it is. But often we are aware of reality through the filter of what we already expect. So just like the previous link, this link is subtle because we usually don't see the filter directly. We see the effects of it. We notice it by actually working backwards from what happens in our experience. In the previous link, we talked about surprise. Surprise reveals world building because it shows us that the mind had already expected something else. But with filtered awareness, we can notice the opposite. We can notice how often we're not surprised. How often does experience show up exactly the way we thought it would? How often do we already expect someone to behave a certain way, and then that's what we see? How often do we already expect a situation to be irritating, disappointing, threatening, or familiar, and then that's exactly how the situation shows up? That's filtered awareness. It's awareness looking through a lens. We're not receiving the moment openly. We're scanning the moment through the conditions that are already in place. We're looking for what fits our internal map. So if I expect someone to be dismissive, I may hear dismissal in their tone. If I expect a room to be safe, I may relax before anything even happens in it. If I expect a task to be frustrating, I may tense up before it even begins. Or what if I expect a certain kind of person to behave a certain way? Well, I may begin filtering for evidence before I even know I'm doing it. And this doesn't mean the filter is always wrong. It's just partial. Oftentimes the filter is useful and it's accurate enough, but we're here to see that it's still a filter. And we're practicing to begin sensing that filter. Oh, My awareness is not neutral here. It's being shaped before I'm even aware of something. We encounter this all the time in our relationships. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and realized that the two of you are not even seeing the same situation? You're both in the same room, you're both hearing the same words, you're part of the same event, and yet the experience is completely different. One person sees disrespect, another honesty. One person sees danger, another person sees opportunity. One person feels rejected, another feels confused. One thinks this is obviously what happened, the other thinks this is not what happened at all. That's filtered awareness. It's not simply, though, that our senses are different, though. It's deeper. It's that awareness itself is already operating through different expectations, histories, fears, desires, and assumptions. We're each looking through a different filter. This is also why we can have such strong reactions to things that other people barely notice. Something happens, and to me, it feels like a big deal, but to someone else, it hardly registers. That difference is useful. Instead of immediately saying, well, they're wrong or I'm wrong, we can get curious. What's shaping my experience here? What's shaping theirs? What expectation is already operating? What is my awareness filtering for? The point is to notice that filtering is happening, because the mere fact that two people can experience the same situation differently shows us that awareness is not simply neutral. It's conditioned, shaped, and filtered. So how does this link trap us? It traps us when we don't know there's a filter. We think that what we experience is simply reality. Not, this is how reality appears through my conditioning, just, this is reality. My version of the world is the world. My perception is the truth. My interpretation is what happened. This becomes very dangerous because there's no space between perception and reality. So there can be no humility. There's no room for correction, and we're just inside the filter, but we don't know we're inside the filter. We can also see this pretty clearly, the fact that everyone's social media feed is different. And yet we think that that social media feed is the social media feed. So when we think this way, we become fixated on our own views. We become more reactive. We live with a certainty. And we just become trapped inside a version of experience without recognizing it's a version. But what about when we free this? When we free ourselves of this, we recognize, oh, I'm filtering experience. Not intentionally. Often we don't see the filter itself, but we can see the effects. We see our reactions. We see our interpretations. We can see differences in perspective. We can see the moments when we were certain and then later realized there was more going on. So we live with more space, more openness, more curiosity. We soften this feeling of certainty and this need to be right. Freeing this link doesn't mean that the filters just disappear. We're still going to have a mind. The mind is naturally going to have filters. It's going to learn. It's going to remember and use knowledge, patterns, and experience. And that's okay. Freedom in this link is not having no filter. It's knowing that the filter is there. It's the subtle recognition that, oh, I'm shaping experience here. And with that recognition, we can hold our views much more lightly. We listen better. We're open to being corrected by reality. And we move through the world with more wisdom and discernment. For this practice, we are going to explore filtered awareness by noticing differences in perspective. So throughout the day, try to notice moments when you and another person experience the same situation differently. Maybe you react strongly to something and they don't, or vice versa. Maybe they notice something you missed. Maybe they interpret someone's tone differently. Maybe they're comfortable when you're tense, or you're comfortable when they're tense. Whenever any situation like this happens, instead of immediately deciding who's right, or even just to come to an agreement, just pause and ask what might be shaping my experience? What might be shaping theirs? What am I already expecting or hoping to see? What is my awareness filtering for? You can also practice this with surprise. In the previous link, we used surprise to reveal world building. Well, here, we can notice both surprise and the absence of surprise. When you're surprised, ask, what did the mind expect? And when you're not surprised, ask, what expectation just got confirmed? Not because the expectation is wrong or that you're trying to get rid of it, but because it shows you that awareness is already operating through a filter. So as we sit together, we're going to gently notice this. What's the mind expecting? What's it filtering for? What does it assume this practice is supposed to be? Am I expecting to be calm, frustrated, bored? Am I expecting some grand insight? Or that I'm going to fail? Whatever appears, we don't need to fight it. We're just learning to notice. This is awareness operating through a filter. So let's practice noticing this together. Go ahead and find your posture and settle in. See if you can notice any expectation. Sometimes the expectation is something we only become aware of when we notice its inversion. What that means is if the feeling that comes up is one of boredom, that reveals to us that we expected something exciting, illuminating, something. See if you can feel into it. In particular, just notice any reactions. Some physical sensations show up and we have a strong reaction to them. Take a look into that reaction. Maybe there was an expectation that you thought that you'd be comfortable. In some way, we had a filter of some sort of expectation of what each moment was going to be like. Simply drop into unfiltered awareness. Anytime you get a glimpse of just simply being completely in the moment, in the body, in the feelings, without a filter, anytime the filter comes on, we notice it as an overlay. So have a play with this. Notice what your experience is like, if it's filtered or unfiltered. Just see what shows up. Okay. Well, thank you for your practice. I hope that this awareness of a filter revealed some things for you. And I'll see you next time for Link 4.